Hello, this is LC Holt, and this is my update for the week of August the 20th. We're live today with a good friend of mine, Mr. Ryan Rayonec. We're going to be talking about all kinds of cool stuff. Ryan, we see you there. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. It's every day is the same where I live. Like in my world, every just a groundhog day over and over and over.
Yes, you live in the fascinating world of Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's something.
Hot as hell out there, isn't it?
Oh God, dude, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You go outside like showers are pointless. Like, and that's what I hate. I hate feeling like sweaty and smelly. But like, you could take the coldest of showers in 5 minutes, you're fucked. Is the show sponsored by like? Can I cuss?
Yeah, no, you can cuss. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No,
Sorry. Just
no,
making sure. I forgot to ask you before we went on air. So
yeah, you're good. Let's start off talking a little bit first about you. Were an actor. You are an actor. You started
I
out
don't
in.
know though. I don't know. Like I'll act when like if something comes. I'm a weird guy because other people I think they're very desperate to be like they just have to have the next thing or they have to be like I was working on so much other shit that was like above acting in the sense it was more money to me like there was more money to be made in my long-term future by going after the things I was going after even in the movie business being a part of a movie on a higher level than acting, you know what I mean? And it's not that there's nothing to be said about acting or it's not an art or whatever. I'm talking about the money. I was at the age I'm after the money. So like I kind of took it, but like I was talking to you the other day, I'd love to do stuff again. I would love to work on someone else's stuff for the first time in a long time. You know what I mean? Because it's so much less stress
Yeah,
when
we
you're
were
working on your,
talking. We were talking about stuff you and I, because about working on some stuff together, and I think that'd be a lot of fun. I know that you're. Well, when did you start acting? We'll start. We'll talk about that for a minute first. The acting career. Were you in your 20s?
but see, yeah, that's the thing though. Like acting, like I just knew I more wanted to like write and direct films. Like when I wanted to be in the like as far as when I would picture myself, I didn't think like, oh, I want to be a movie star. Like there's just so much competition. There's so it's like wanting to be in the NBA. You know what I mean? There's a million other people who also want to be in the NBA. The competition's very fierce. So I didn't really I didn't really picture that too much. It was just that this movie, whenever back down came up, I was working on a couple other side. Like I had worked on a couple projects that like stuff that like there was one reality show that never came about, but I at least got the experience of working on it. Like seeing how things work, behind the which I hate anything to do with reality. It's disgusting. The reality TV is like terrible. Like it's for me, it's a movie or nothing. Like I'm not interested in TV. I'm not interested in anything. But movies and that. No, you can't actually nowadays. You can't say that though because they've actually put in some high budget like work into television. So
That's
I
true.
guess it would depend. It would depend. Like HBO does really good stuff. Like so it would depend on what it was. But I'm not the guy who's like, oh, I just have to like, if something happens, it comes up. And that was how Never Back Down happened. It just kind of came up. Because what happened was I had just fought a guy named Musin Corbray in South Carolina, and I shattered my thumb really, really, really bad. Like I'm talking to the point for 2 whole weeks, I don't know if I'm going to lose my thumb or not. So that's a shitty time. That's a really, really shitty time.
Now,
But during
was
this,
this as a boxer, or
yeah,
was
yeah,
this
this
MMA?
is when I was because there was a point I was taking boxing pretty seriously. You know what I mean? Like not just pretty seriously. Like I lived it for a couple of years where like it was life for a couple of years. So when like it's a big reality check too when you think like whatever this because as a competitor you think like whatever the situation is I'll just overcome it, you know what I mean, like fuck it, like you're gonna get broken bones, you're gonna have swollen eyes, you're gonna whatever, you know what I mean, if you want this you just got to go get it, no matter what the obstacle is. The reality is when you get in there sometimes things happen to where like you realize, oh, does it not matter how bad I want this other guy's a technician and they, you know what I mean, and it doesn't matter how tough I am, I can only stay conscious, because this motherfucker is awesome at fight, you know what I mean, like just certain things, it's like no matter how much you prepare yourself there's a lot, like there's certain things you don't see coming, especially when you have to fight someone like that shattering your thumb in the first, and then you got to fight this guy 4 more rounds with a shattered thumb. So it gave me a big eye opening of like, look, I'm a really bright guy. You know what I mean? Like, not to toot horn, I don't write anything on the internet. Hey, I'm brighter than you. There's no blogs. I don't tell people what I'm working on. Nothing. You know what I mean? I don't need anyone to pat me on the back. Okay. But what I mean by that is there's so many other avenues I can make a lot of money in this world without getting hit in the head. You know what I mean? It's a really, really rough life. And once you get really comfortable fighting too, you don't really need to, you know what I mean? You're just fighting for other people at that point. You know, you as a person, once you feel comfortable, no matter who's in the room with you, okay, whatever. If there's a problem, whatever. Once you get to that point, what are you fighting for? You can only get brain damage. You know what I mean? Now, if you're someone like Conor McGregor, who's got the money behind you, you got the whole nation behind you, it's worth it to put your life on the line. It's worth it to put, to go through the bumps for a couple of weeks, because the payday is such that you're getting, it's life changing, and it could be life changing for your kids, your grandkids, and everyone else. But when you're fighting bad motherfuckers for $1,000, you know what I mean? That's a rough life. And then on top of it, people don't see before you get in the ring. You know, I used to fight a guy named Anthony Greenwich, just sparring, we were in the same camp, same gym, great guy in the military, not just a great guy. But if you look at pictures of him now, he's a bodybuilder now. The man is like, I look at him now, like I used to like throw punches at this guy on purpose. Like, what the fuck was wrong with me in my 20s? Like, this is what I did with my time on purpose. Like, fight this motherfucker. Like, what the fuck? Like you kind of look back like, wow. But you know what? That was two of the greatest years of my life. You know what I mean? I love all those guys. Dennis Galarza came out here a couple weeks ago. That was great to see him fight out here. So, I still love boxing. I'm obviously entrenched in the fight game. I make a good amount of money on fights, but as far as me fighting, my hand's a roadmap. Look at, like, I don't know if you could see in the camera, but it's bad. Like, I need probably several surgeries.
Now, where were you based when you were training and fighting? Were you based in
Orlando?
Where's that?
Orlando.
Okay.
In Florida.
Yeah. And that's where the film was made, Never Back Down?
Yeah. We actually, Never Back Down was mostly filmed in I think it was Florida. We filmed most of it in Florida, or was it most of it I can't remember, because I just know what I did. It was, I can't remember if it was split, but it was definitely Orlando and LA. I remember that much. And what it was is when I had that hand injury, I had more time. I hadn't had any time in like a couple of years. So I'm like just on the internet, and someone put out an ad, it was like specific, white guy in Orlando, like, we need fight. And I'm like, at the time I was like the only white fighter. There's a couple of us, maybe a couple. And I had an interest in movies, but I'm thinking, like, I did not think this was even like worth my time, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, because for all I know, if it's on, from where I found it, it was like an online ad. I don't want to say because I can't remember the exact, without taking time, I can't remember where I found it, but I just remember thinking this could be a college project, I went in very weary. And I went in and I saw like the posters on the wall, and I'm like, you guys have done casting for all these movies? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh shit, because it was all the big shit, like all the big shit, like without giving examples, it was the good shit. Yeah. So I was like, oh God. And I was when it had to be, I hope someone burned my audition tape, like, cause I was so frozen, because I went in, cause I walk around Orlando, like, with a 12-inch dick. And what I mean by that is, like, I loved that city and everyone loved me when I was there. Like, I made a big mistake leaving. So
well, what was the audition? Was it lines? Was it to fight?
It was lines. I think one of the things I did, it was just like, and it's something I could do in my sleep. You know what I mean? It was just like the guy who, like, basically, is the rep who said, okay, you ready, fight. It's like a simple shit. But I was so like, when you like, it was my first audition ever. Like, I hadn't, like, so I went in from completely cocky to these people are gonna probably waste my time. Don't anger me, so I might catch a jab. To oh shit. So it was just like, it was nerves. I hadn't dealt with any nerves outside of fighting someone. So when you fight people, like the other stuff really doesn't nerve you too much. You know what I mean? Like Walmart doesn't, like there's not a lot of things that can make you think like, oh shit, but like I was pretty frozen because I knew movies were something I always wanted to get into. So at that exact moment, I'm like, oh fuck, this is an opportunity, but you can't always fix that in the moment. You're like, oh shit.
So what was
So
it like when you translated the audition, that experience of being nervous in the audition, and then you were actually on the set in front of cameras? By
to
then,
be honest, I was a pro off the bat. Like I had no problem. Like if anything, I was if a director felt like he wanted something better, like I try to do the best I could for as small a part as it was. Because it's someone else's money, it's someone else's time, it's someone else's work, and it's someone, you know what I mean? When you aren't at the peak of something, just to do the best you can for who is, because and as long as you agree with it. Now it'd be one thing if you're doing a film and it's really political and I'm like, Lou, I gotta read through this, like this is that's different, but as far as like I gave them all the advice. Like I remember the director one time, I gave him an answer he didn't like. I think it was Justin Williams. He worked on 300 too, and he goes, because it was I think Rachel, who was the girl in the movie, Rachel Thompson, who was kicking me.
yeah.
And he's like, okay, what would you do in a real fight? Like, how would you react? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to react at all, because you don't want to tell your opponent, even if it hurt, you don't want to let them know anything. And plus, you're supposed to be in a mode where I don't give a fuck, you kick me, I'm coming right back. You know what I mean? And he's like, oh shit, this doesn't work. So he's like, just play dead. Just okay. Whatever's gonna sell. Like it's a business.
Yeah, just pretend like you're knocked out.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I'm fine. I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous anyway. You know what I mean? No matter what any chick's martial art background is, if I can throw you like a Nerf football, it's going to be a bad day for you. So but
as I recall too, you did kind of toss her.
She's great though. She's done a lot of stuff. I follow what she does. She's still doing good.
Cool. Yeah, that was a really fun movie, and that was a very successful movie as well, as I recall.
Yeah, I think I don't know how much, like, as far as pure I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what was actually made of the movie. I know a lot of what we spent. And they definitely spent some money. We had a lot, like, that was, to me, like, that was why I haven't been in a rush to, like, really, I had the best first movie experience anyone could ever have, like, ever. Like, I can't even tell people how good it was to film that movie. So it made me obviously want to work on other movies. And I did. I worked on stuff after that, but, just stuff that, to this day I still have on the back burner. But hey, that's how the movie business is. Sometimes stuff lays dormant for a while, and then like all of a sudden, you have something to do.
Yeah, because we talked a lot. Because you did writing for a while. I mean, we won't go into everything you, because it is kind of still could happen. You never know. But you worked as a writer for a while too, right?
So it wasn't so much even working. I was working for myself because there was a project I wanted to do. So I contacted everyone involved, and I flew out and I had the meetings and everything else. And they were like, okay, it's depending on, everything is script dependent. You know what I mean? Obviously ideas can sound good, but if the words on paper suck, you know what I mean? Then you know the business. So I spent like I didn't have the budget to even fly out there. You know what I mean? This is after like I had blown a whole bunch of money fighting, because when I was fighting, I actually had a whole bunch of money from NFL football. Like I tore NFL football apart for a calendar month. So I lived on that money for 2 years while I was fighting. Like I didn't have to do it. You know what I mean? That's why I focused so much time on it. I was able to focus so much time on it, was NFL football.
Yeah.
So I forgot where I was going right before that. What were we talking about? Right?
Yeah, you were talking about that you financed your trip out there because you.
No, yeah, okay. So the reason is A, I can write, and B, like I know the story I'm trying to go with, and this was something to where I wanted as much of it as I could possibly get. The writing, the direct, anything I could get out there, because in Hollywood it's hard to get your name on something commercial. You know what I mean? Because there's so many other people that have so much money to compete with you, to take that from you. And the fact that if something commercially becomes available, it's just eaten up. You know what I mean? To where, it's very hard to get the rights. It's very hard to get the meetings. It's just, unless you're already established, whatever else. So when all I've done is never back down when it's not very much, you know what I mean? Like I saw an opportunity, I took it, and they even like the script. Like I even got like and it's like, it's basically, it got to a point where I got run into the ground. You know what I mean? I'm the guy. It's my project. I run out there. I do it's like doing everything. The meetings, the writing, the potential planning of the directing, the meeting with potential producers. It was just like, dude, when you see the end of the movie and there's 500 names, if not more, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was doing the work of all 500 for like, it was over like a year and a half. So like I got to the point where it's like I don't even care right now. Like this is something that could be made. Like it is one of those movies that I could make 10 years from now. It would have been convenient in the moment too because of something that maybe more awareness. But I think it's one of those things where I could sell it regardless. So I just got run down to the point I almost stopped working on it. And then while I was working on it, now this can lead into conspiracy stuff. While I was working on it, I learned more about the world than I've ever learned. And I had my complete world perspective changed. And that's hard. That's not easy for someone to go through. Like I'll admit it fucked with me like really bad to the point I might have been like, I had a mother, growing up, my mom was mentally ill. Like she was always mentally ill. So you don't want anyone connotated, like attaching anything like that to you. Yeah. So it's a hard thing for me to say at one point I was mentally ill. But I think at one point I definitely was because I just learned too much too fast. Like, and I'm talking about like, the highest levels of this world, how shit actually works. Like you have a perception of how things work. And I'm here to tell you that perception is wrong. And I'm not here to tell you that perception is wrong because I saw a YouTube video. I'm not here to tell you that perception is wrong, because someone just, said something one time. I just latched onto their opinion. I've worked on the third largest financial exchange in the world. I've worked on Hollywood projects. I've been in the fight game. I've just been in so many places, and not to mention like 1,000 other things I've done. Like I'm a weird guy. So I've had a perspective to where like I just kind of see the world for what it is. I used to let it bother me a lot. Now I just kind of think, look, it is what it is. You're only a vessel that's going to be here so long. You need money in this world to have what you want to have, no matter what you think about politics, no matter what you think about, anyone being right or wrong about whatever. As long as we're in this world, as long as money exists, you need to have a certain amount of money to do the things you want to do in this life. I would be much more concerned if we were immortal. If we're immortal, you got to be way more concerned, but me and you in 50 years, we know we're probably going to be either gone or wishing we were gone. So at that point, when you come to that realization, just look, make as much money as you can, and if you're so convinced something is going on, profit from it. It's sad. The only thing I would say, don't plan something, but like, see, that's the problem I have in this world is because of the knowledge I have. Like there's things I know, and like for example, the same trick gets pulled over and over and over and over, but because you don't know the trick's being pulled, because you don't even know the show exists, you know what I mean? They can get over and over and over, and put options like are the best way in this world.
That's a good thing to. We've talked a lot privately about, and we kind of have an interesting dynamic because most people know that I'm very skeptical about most things, and I'm not a big conspiracy guy. But the thing that I like about when you and I talk is that you do present a lot of facts, and I can kind of determine what I'm thinking about it based on what you're saying. Now, you mentioned put options, and I'm not sure a lot of people would know what that is. Could you explain that for just a second?
A put option it's real simple. It's just a bet against something. The same way you can bet on Floyd Mayweather to win, you can bet on a corporation to lose. And when you got to remember, at certain levels in this world, someone is in control of the combat. You know what I mean? If you're a I don't want to just call out like any alphabet, whoever, by name, because this isn't like a specific targeted rant or anything. You know what I mean? I'm not like trying to pick on this. I'm not trying to pick on the CIA. I'm not trying to pick on but let's just say you're corrupt. Okay. Obviously we know as humans, there are people who exist that are corrupt. So say you're corrupt and say you have a lot of power and you are aware that, hey, building X is going to be in trouble. Okay. Well, a smart person can generate a lot of thoughts from that. Who insures building X? How much, are they publicly traded? Who else is going to be affected if building X has a problem? Like it's just, and this isn't building X as talk. I'm not talking about 9/11. I just mean building X as in anything that, whether it's war, whether it's, if you know something negative is going to happen and there is, and obviously most people never have to worry about this. You know what I mean? That when we see like, these people on TV who are involved in whatever, most people aren't international financiers. Most people aren't, involved in terrorism. They just really want a job and like to support their families and shit.
So it would be more like a group of people.
Yeah, but back to the point, if you know something bad is going to happen on a global scale, you can profit large. And even it doesn't even have to be that global. It could just be something that affects an entire revenue stream of a section of the economy. But having that information and being able to play God because you're the boss, you know what I mean? When you're at the top of the totem pole, no one tells you what to do. So that's the thing you have to worry about is having these kind of financial tools in existence that allow humans to do like I just think we should have more of a system where like stuff like this, we just need a different system is what we need. Like I don't, there's no other way to say it. Like because I'm getting tongue tied here. As long as things exist the way they do, people will always be able to take advantage of it the way they have been. So
let's jump into some specifics. Let's say, for instance, one of the things we've talked about was, I think we had talking about today was the Kurt Cobain thing. And the
9/11 put options are the easiest ones to understand for the layman because it's just simple. United Airlines cannot do well if you crash into the World Trade Center. That's not going to be good for business. No one says, hey, United just crashed into the World Trade Center. Let me go buy their stock. Okay. 0 out of 7 billion say that. So it can only go down. So on the 6th, 7th, and 9th, there was like something like 200 times normal volume on put options, which is a significant number. I don't know the actual number. All I know is it's a lot more on United. Okay. The reason that this can happen is there's no one really to tell, when these trades happen, even the people checking the trades, okay, they don't have any clue about why this is actually being executed, okay? All we know is that my boss wants this many orders. And then when I say my boss too, I can't remember, okay? I can't, because the reason I say my boss is on the 6th, 7th, and 9th in Chicago, I was actually working down there checking put options. Like that was my job. So I have no recollection if anyone I was affiliated with had anything to do with United because it was only my job to make sure the numbers matched up. If you had 2,000 calls, we needed 2,000 puts. Or if this trader did this and I looked at his position, like was this a mistake? Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't my business to know who, what, or why. So again, that's not saying anything because I love the people I used to work with, so I'm not saying anything negative about any of them. I'm saying someone somewhere obviously knew something, you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, in game 7 of the finals, you got Michael Jordan and Carmelo and John Stockton got sick and you're like the only one that knows, you're supposed to bet on Jordan anyway. So the whole point being is someone knew, even if those people were limited, even if someone profited.
Right. And that's a tough one too, because 9/11 is kind of a hotbed issue. When you start talking about that, people have.
I don't even really like talking about it anymore because the Kurt Cobain thing. We should get into that. The only thing that's interesting to me about that is because knowing what I know about like the movie business, and we talked about this yesterday. There's only 2 options. Either Kurt is fully aware that. He's putting this message in the album cover, and we'll explain to the audience what that was in a second. Or the producer's aware. You know what I mean? There's only 2 options. So, and what we're talking about is in Utero, which was the album before they got really big. Because when Nevermind came out, they got really big overnight. Mm-hmm. They were, that was the one that was the one that was in Walmart. Where like, okay, now even just kids, on the street know who Nirvana is. But before that, they weren't famous yet. And there was an album called In Utero. And on the inside cover of the album is a picture of the band. And if you put it in a mirror, Kurt's shirt clearly says 9/11, and there's like a little bitty plane. So, I'm all for, coincidence and whatnot, but like, look, come on, and he's got one, he's covering his eye. It's a very symbolic picture. So either he's fully aware, or let's be honest, the producer's aware. It's one of the two. So, and we're talking 1994.
Right. And
now
I think that would be one of the big questions for a skeptical, mind would be, if this was in 1994, how could a grunge rocker in Seattle know about something that was going to happen years later in New York on 9/11, 2001?
No, and that's the lawyer world we live in. We can always phrase things in a way to where no matter what our eyes tell us, we can be convinced that we don't see what we're seeing. It's a weird part of the human psychology that seems to be like a mass problem. You know what I mean? I like to believe my eyes. It's what I see with.
But I mean, what element of the conspiracy theory? How did he find out? I guess is what I.
But see, that's the thing. To me, looking back, it seemed to be an almost like open joke in how amongst, like, I'm talking entertainment, Hollywood. If you told me, look, there's six, just six examples where the Trade Center was attacked before 9/11, or someone like showed some preconditioning to this, I'd be like, look, it's one of the most famous buildings that ever were. There's going to be movies that are based around, because it's in one of the biggest cities there's ever been, the most famous cities there's ever been. Of course, Hollywood's going to have some type of movie at some point where maybe this building comes in peril. Almost all significant, landmarks at some point are probably in a movie of some kind. Mm-hmm. But when you get past 6 and you get to 7 and you get to 8 and you get to 39, you get to 419, you get to 790. As far as like the number of people and directors and producers and musicians who were just kind of flaunting this. When you look back now, it's easy now because it happened. So if you're looking through films and you want to see, okay, like what other representation of 9/11 can I find? It's easier. Right. So now that we have all these years, I mean, and this isn't just like, you don't have to be like, oh, Ryan's a conspiracy guy. Just look on YouTube. There's 45 hours of people showing you, look, it's in Sesame Street. Look, it's Neo's expiration date in the Matrix. Look, maybe watch Fight Club again and think the entire movie's about this shit. Look, like The Simpsons. Look, because after like 700 looks, it's like you have to understand that something is going on. It's not boogie.
That's an interesting point, but I think the thing a lot of people would also combat that with would be to say, well, if you look hard enough, you could find it in anything. You know what I mean?
But I would say, give me an example. Like this is I'm talking specific examples of what you're talking about. When you say I can relate it to anything, that's not even an argument. That's just saying anything. Like, well, let me give you some a quick. I can jump from one conspiracy to another, because I don't really want to talk about this one outside of the one point I want to make. Because the moon landing, for example, I never, as much as I like listening to people's conspiracy theories. Growing up, I never really questioned the moon landing. I didn't care. I'm not the Star Wars guy. I'm not the Star Trek guy. I'm the don't give a fuck about space guy. I grew up playing nothing but basketball. You couldn't get any of my attention on any of this star bullshit. All you nerds can have it. I don't want no part of it. So I was never the guy who I just took what movies and TV told us, because I didn't give two fucks. When I got a little bit older, I have a lawyer friend, Ron Greco, and he was telling me, or at least he's not technically a lawyer. He's been to more law school than most lawyers, but he was telling me we hadn't been past, 200 miles above Earth's atmosphere in 30 years. And I said, what? Because I was under the assumption that we just went to space all the time. You know what I mean? That we have all this stuff up there. And so then I started listening to people's arguments as far as well, there's a million. That's why I didn't really want to get into it. There's 10 million arguments as far as like we did, the intersecting shadows, the Stanley Kubrick, was it fake, the this and that. Instead of getting into all of that, I just want to bring up the one point about the moon that gets to me the most.
Okay, what's that?
When they were going right now and play this specific part of what I'm talking about, they were showing there's footage of them like they were covering up part of the window. Like this is like they even talked about it and admitted it. And they're like, yeah, well, we were just doing that for footage purposes because we knew we were going to be this far away later, but we needed to capture the shot now because if we didn't capture the shot now, we're going to be busy late. They can talk their way around whatever, okay? But there is kind of footage of them finagling this picture. And so the image we had of Earth for years, like that universal image in textbooks, was that one where they were apparently 138,000 miles away, or 100, don't quote me on the exact mileage, whatever, halfway to the moon, okay? They were halfway to the moon, and the Earth looks pretty far away. We could see its shape, we can see, everything else, but we're showing, they're basically telling us, look, 100,000 miles is a bit, like we're out here. That's the representation they're trying to make. Now, fast forward to present day. We have, what's the name of that camera from NASA? I think I've told you before, Epic. There's a camera. This isn't like someone else's, like Elon Musk's camera. This is from, NASA. This is like from them. And it shows the dark side of the moon, this is supposed to be a big thing, because people don't usually get to see the dark side of the moon. That's the part we don't see. Like, so for the first time, we're going to see, from these specific images, and it was like a big deal, whatever else. The problem I have is that from a million miles away, the Earth engulfs the photo. Engulfs. You see the dark side of the moon, and underneath the moon is something that would not look far away on the moon, let alone 100,000 miles, 138,000 miles from it. That is my problem. You can't have your cake and eat it too with me. I'll if it's in the best interest of our nation, like say, okay, at the time, was it convenient for America to make it to the moon? Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. In that particular time, there was a huge space race, and for not a lot of people might know this, but at a certain point, America and Russia during the Cold War were trying to beat each other to space as a sort of political and scientific dig measuring competition.
Listen to when I tell you that this was a gigantic deal. Gigantic deal. And I mean, like people can't underestimate. So and now transition that to two people who have worked on movies. If someone looks you in the eye and be like, dude, I have all the money in the world. I have this crazy producer. He's like the most eccentric fuck ever. But take us back to, like, say we have the technology we have today, but humans have never been to space. Let's just say we never even thought about it before, okay? And as Hollywood people, someone said, hey, can we fake space? Can we really pull it off? Can we, he's got all the money, dude. Can we just take his money? Can we make this movie? We're gonna be like, yeah, we can make this movie. You see what I'm saying? So don't think that no other smart people exist. And don't think that when we're talking war, people's lives, people's kids, financial futures, their country are on the line, that lies will not be told. People tell lies to their own people to get ahead because they're just so sociopathic. You know what I mean? Where nothing is enough, where they can't even hear any reality that might conflict with theirs because they're so like Al Gore is the biggest example of that. He can't even, Jesus could come back for the only purpose to tell Al that, look, yes, climate change is occurring on some levels, but here's where you're wrong. And I'll be like, no, I'm not wrong. And so that's the type of person that I have a problem with. You know what I mean? But on other levels, I just try to believe as much in my eyes as I can. And if I don't know what to think, like the whole moon thing, I don't know exactly what to think, but I know one of the two things is not correct.
Yeah. So because there are many kind of different levels of this conspiracy theory about the moon, about NASA. Some people say that they sent things up to orbit. Some people say that they didn't send anything anywhere, not even into space. And then some people say, so there are kind of varying levels of how far the conspiracy goes. If we go to let's just go to the most extreme example, which is where they say that nothing was sent into space. And I think that would kind of play into the dome theory, if I'm not mistaken, where you couldn't send anything into space.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now
The
that
dome theory is only interesting to me. Oh, there's several reasons. Because it is kind of flaunted by people who flaunt other stuff. You know, if you look at the map of the UN, it's a flat Earth map from like the 1600s. You know what I mean? You know, they're trying to fuck with you. And the thing about it is even our own Pentagon. Forget like, you know, again, get away from conspiracy stuff. Get into what our own government will tell you. The future of war is psychological. You know what I mean? We've had all these times where, okay, we've had the pissing contest with weapons, okay? We're getting into the Tony Stark era where you don't really want to have a pissing contest with weapons.
right.
You know what I mean? No matter how tough you are, if you get hit by some of the stuff we can build as humans, you're fucked. You know what I mean? So it's good to get away from that. But there's still a lot of bad to be had. And like, look at the music business is a good one. Every single, like, I like hip hop in the sense of like like it's a frequency thing. You know what I mean? If you're about to fight someone, you don't want to be listening to fucking Lionel Richie. You don't want to be listening to fucking you know what I mean? You know, give me some fucking Lil Wayne, or give me some, you know, something to get me in that mood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same token, it's not exactly a positive frequency. You know what I mean? And it's the frequency that a lot of these kids get on. And if you listen to what's being told to them during the frequency, you know, we all bob our head and everything else because the beat, they're so good at making the hypnotic beat, and they're so good at, you know, like the top producers make some quality shit that even if you don't like the artist, you'll be like, yeah, but the beat's good, you know, because they're good at what they do.
Sure.
But they say a lot of negative shit like over the top of these beats, and they influence a large audience, like someone like Jay-Z, who has a huge audience. You know, and he's saying, you know, MDNA got you feeling like a champion. The city never sleeps, but it gets you an Ambien. There could be a whole bunch of kids that have never heard of MDNA. MDNA, I'm pronouncing it tongue-tied, but you know what I'm talking about. Like I've never done it, but I know Joe Rogan sure the fuck does it. But when Joe talks about it, he talks about it in a sense where you could tell, like, he's just like kind of really like in love, like he just is like likes drugs. You know what I mean? And he tries to just relay his experience on said drug.
Well, Ambien is the Ambien side of it. That's something that I could relate to because I took that for a while. I mean, it was, you know, when I was in my 20s, that was something that I took and probably took too much of. And it does have an effect on you. I mean, it's not a benign drug in the sense that it does cause you to have amnesia. I mean, I had experiences with that where I would take it and then I would call. There's a producer friend of mine whose name I won't mention, who I used to have all kinds of crazy fucking conversations with, because I would take it and then I would call him up and want to talk about like weird shit, you know? So I can say from personal experience that drug does have a mind altering quality, and then sort of erases your mind from when you wake up the next morning, you're like, okay, what did I do? What did I say?
Yeah.
And I think Joe Rogan has talked about this as well, because it's a fairly common side effect of Ambien.
I don't think there's anything wrong or devilish about having a conversation about a drug if you're truly just giving like your experience or whatever. Like Joe Rogan's another one. He has a big audience, but I think it's more of an adult audience, and I think it's a certain type of I think anyway. Fuck the world's so big anymore. Who the fuck knows? But when you have someone like Jay-Z, who a lot of younger minds are going to follow him. And he puts these ideas in your head without and maybe I'm not even saying there's evil intent, like it could be any artist, take Jay-Z's name out of it. You know what I mean? When you're at that level, when you're putting this beat out there and you have all these fans and you're not talking about like positive things. Like look at The Weeknd. The Weeknd's on the top of the charts over and over and over again. And he had that song, him and Future, Low Life. Like Future's verse, like any parent should want to just beat him up. You know what I mean? Like he's just talking about getting your daughter drunk, probably because she wouldn't want to fuck him if she wasn't hammered. You know what I mean? Like it's nothing fucking like if you actually just took the lyrics, take the artist you like out of it, take the beat that's sick out of it. People like the verses are not positive. They're really not. It's almost universal across the board. Where like the hot shit, like the stuff that makes the charts, is only in some way, shape, or form portraying some type of negativity.
Yeah.
When you really think about it.
hip hop and Jay Z are difficult ones for me to talk about because I don't really know much about Jay Z. I mean, I know that he's popular. I know who he's married to. You know.
Well,
Um,
again, though, I'm not picking on him. You know what I mean? If I was going to pick on him, it'd be for a different reason. And I would talk over about something else. I was just using him as example. He's got big audience, and people love him, whether it's for right or wrong. People love him. So if you're a kid and you see like the respect this guy's got, and you know you live in a different life, because everyone comes up in a very different like lottery ticket. You know what I mean? Whereas I'm coming up in Indiana, you know, I've got one of the top 100 schools in the nation. As far as high schools, like I have, good benefits, good people around me. I don't have to worry about getting shot. I don't have to worry about getting stabbed. We fought all day long. My God, like looking back, like little fucking Spartans. But fuck, but beyond that, we didn't have to worry about murder. We didn't have to. Someone else comes into this world and under a completely different lottery ticket. You know what I mean? If they don't have a gun, they could be fucked. Maybe they're man enough to throw hands but they're fucked if they don't have a gun. And it's not that they want to, it's just their reality. Look at kids overseas. I was talking about this yesterday. There's kids overseas that have extremely like you wouldn't imagine the shit they have to go through just to live life. The bullets all the time when they're just they don't even know what reality is.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a whole
And
different world in
that's
some
one.
respects.
And this isn't conspiracy stuff. This is more just to tell the world like how things work in other countries that you're not aware of. It was that conversation we had yesterday. Like I would like people to be aware of this. In other countries, Big Bird, Barney, etc. They don't teach kids 1, 2, 3. They don't teach kids ABC. They teach kids kill a Jew as quickly as possible, or kill the enemy as quickly as possible. I'm talking like 2-year-olds. This is who they're targeting. So when you raise, because the human mind can be bent a lot of different ways, it's a tool. If you can sharpen it in many different ways. So you have to at least know these things in the world exist. People think that there's just all like fucking rainbows out here, if you're in, people get judged way too quickly too, because I think a lot of people have never been in other people's shoes, like to an extreme level. Like we get mad at all these CEOs, we get mad at like but think about it. Have you ever been in their shoes? Like you're trying to get a job for like $8 an hour. You know what I mean? This guy's got to manage 50,000 employees, 50,000 complaints, 50,000 people that want, a more of a Christmas bonus, 50,000 people that could email him at any time. Hey, I have a problem. You know what I mean? There's people in this world that you have no idea, like the amount of good that they do that'll never be seen. And you know what's really talked about, like most times about these people is, oh, fuck that guy, because he's only like, in the media or whatever else, you're looked at as a negative because you just read one TV, or one news article. They could that's the problem with the world we live in. If you don't play ball nowadays, they can spin stuff a lot of ways. It's not like there's 1,000 different news sources. There's 500 channels, but like 3 bosses. You know what I mean? It's not this world. You can just have a whole bunch of allies and enemies anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of what we live nowadays is a world in which the truth doesn't really matter so much as the headline, sadly.
And it goes back to that Pentagon thing where they say it's psychological. Almost nothing that happens nowadays, they can't just look me in the face like, no, it didn't. Mm-hmm. Just that, and take it to the grave. That's the end of the story. No, it didn't, and just live with it forever.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, man, we've gone through several different topics. From the space race to the Jay-Z to definitely couldn't contribute on Jay-Z there.
I don't really even want to talk about him. It just like, again, just be kind of aware, like if you're talking about drugs to a whole bunch of kids, someone might start doing some of the drugs, like that's just my only point. Like it's a whole bunch of people are in that spot. It's not just him. You know what I mean? Fuck. It's. But they've always kind of sold us that too. If you look back, like, Michael Jordan sold us Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is like just a bunch of sugar. It's not good for you. So you could look at that on a whole bunch of different levels. Like it doesn't have to be something as bad as doing a hardcore drug. It could just be something that affects your daily life. And you know, and
Sure.
it doesn't have to be someone that you're like when Jay-Z comes up, like a lot of people might think, like if you're talking conspiracy, oh, just throw him under the bus, get Illuminati. Like, no, I just threw my favorite person underneath the bus. You know, Michael Jordan selling the sugar. You know what I mean? And it might not he might have had zero intent to sell us sugar. He just fucked. Coca-Cola came to me and said, "I'll give you $2 million to hold this Coke can." I'd do it too, Mike.
Sounds like a good enough reason to me.
Yeah, you know, fuck. Hey, Coca-Cola, are you there? Because I got one. I'll take $2 million right now.
There's some easy sponsorship. Ryan can be the next spokesperson.
Yeah, I'll, in the middle of the commercial, I'll say, "Don't drink this shit," and just smile.
You could send like reverse subliminal messages, you know?
Yeah, this is fucking terrible for you. I only bought it because there's only one vending machine in the building, and I don't feel like walking. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, years ago I stopped drinking Coca-Cola, and it was a weird thing too because like I was raised on it. My grandmother used to sneak it into our bottles because my mother wouldn't let us have it.
No, in the 80s, dude, I think we all had way too much soda in our kitchens, like way too much soda.
So you are kind of programmed early for that. And I mean, I had friends of mine who weren't, you know, their parents wouldn't allow them, but it was like lifeblood for me. And I'm glad when I stopped drinking Coca-Cola and stuff like that, because now I don't drink hardly any caffeine except for coffee. But it does, you can tell a difference, definitely physically, you know.
No, and I think, you know, if it's interesting too. You could talk conspiracy about food, you know, the Monsanto stuff. Just the fact that every place you go to now, almost every place, there's just nothing as you enter and as you leave. There's nothing but chocolate, candy bars, soda, nothing good for you. You know, and as I walk around, dude, sometimes I'll walk by 100 people and 87 will be like not just overweight, but like really, really overweight. Like it's a big problem. You know, you only have one. Yeah. You only have one body. You don't get a replacement. It's not like you can be like, oh, I completely wrecked this one. You know, I'll just get another one at Target. Like you're fucked.
Yeah, well, that's very true.
Start drinking some water. Start drinking some water, people. Start drinking eating some steak or doing something.
Yeah, well, there is definitely a huge health crisis in America based around stuff like that. But amazingly, Ryan, we're actually almost out of time. We've gone through so many. Quick. Yeah, it did. It always goes quick when you're talking about interesting stuff. We should definitely do some more of these where we get down, you know, really in and explore these individually, you know, and talk about it, because I think that could be really interesting. Today we kind of did kind of an overview of some stuff, and
it's hard too because you almost have to talk about one thing at a time, because each given subject, there's so many points, counterpoints, and then you have to be rational, and then you have to, you know, like talk X, Y, and Z. They're not simple arguments. You know,
well, we went through some interesting, like, broad things. I think it might be interesting to do some shows where we go into each one, you know, and I think we could talk about that. I would certainly be willing to do that if you're down for it.
Yeah, I don't mind. It's fun. Like I always have an hour to waste. I live like I said, anything that like gets me out of my routine is positive, because I get in the habit of doing the same thing like just day and my mind can go on autopilot and do what I do. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a lot.
It definitely gets old.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. You and I are, I think, the same age, so we're in the same boat there. But these kind of conversations are always pretty fascinating and stimulating, and I think they're interesting to listen to. So yeah, let's do some more in the future where we talk about.
Yeah, because I didn't actually, before we went on air, I didn't get to talk about, like, because I thought those were more fun things to talk about, like what we were talking about before air, like the Bogdanovs. I had never heard of these. Oh my God! Like, look at what the fuck did you guys do to yourselves? God damn. I hope they don't have as much power as the internet says they have, because I'm sitting here clowning on them. But that was a funny one that I had never heard of. Like I've heard of most stuff. Yeah. So the Bogdanov twins were interesting to me last night when I was looking at maybe for something to talk about in your show. And then the Imagine Dragons things. I wouldn't mind actually talking about that too, because that's interesting to me just because of who it is and because I don't understand maybe why why this is happening. Yeah, maybe someone else.
Let's do that. Let's schedule another show, and we'll jump into this. And right from the start, we'll jump right into that kind of stuff. We'll get right.
No, 100%. Like that's one where I just found out about it, and like that's because I guess it happened several weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that one is very interesting to me for the simple fact of like he has zero to gain, I think. You know what I mean? Unless it's some sort of like hoax for more, but he's at a point he don't need any more fame. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? If they can,
Yeah.
they sell out anywhere right now. So when you're at sellout level, the business model that I found is best to just not fuck with sellout level. Just leave it alone.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't
So
aware of it until you brought it up while we were talking off, before we broadcast. So yeah, that'd be a good thing to talk about. Well, let's wrap up this show and then we'll go
yeah,
ahead and
I have way too much stuff to do today, which sucks, which really sucks. But I have to.
yeah, yeah. Well, I had a lot of fun talking with you, man. And like I said, we'll do a lot more of these. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But I want to thank you for coming on, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem. It's fun talking to you because I try to talk to as few people in Vegas as humanly possible. Like it's bad out here.
And I appreciate all you guys watching. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you soon.